My mom taught me the basics of sewing when I was probably in middle school, I guess. And then I was pretty much self-taught after that. There wasn't YouTube back then, so you couldn't just look up tutorials for anything you wanted at any moment. But yeah, so I did a lot by trial and error, and at first I started out making clothing, but I wasn't very good at tailoring, so then I went into like home decor and things like that. And I did quilting for a little while, took some quilting classes, but quilting takes way too much patience. I just do not have it. So I prefer to do projects that I can just sit down and get done in one sitting rather than something I need to work on for months at a time. So that's when I started making purses, because you know, it's possible to sit down and just make a purse in a day. So yeah, and I don't know, I just started experimenting with different forms, different shapes, and I always would draw designs on paper and then fold the paper in various ways until I could get it into a form that I knew I could actually produce. And that's how I came up with these, the pyramids. But I've also done more, you know, traditional sort of forms, but I think these are more interesting. There's a lot of volume inside that shape. I started out just doing the local, you know, Joann's and Hancock's and that sort of thing, but they don't really rotate their stock very often, so I would start venturing farther afield. I like making ends meet in Shelbyville, but then I did start also ordering off the internet too, because there's more variety. So yeah, I like collecting fabric. I think part of the reason I got into this was just an excuse to have a bunch of fabric. And I always like to buy a lot of different fabrics in smaller pieces, like 1 yard of 10 fabrics versus one fabric in 10 yards. So that I can just have, you know, a variety of things to work with and match different patterns and colors, and that's what I think is interesting about it. I started making jewelry kind of as a hobby, and I would never, you know, try to become a jeweler. But I do enjoy working with wire and beads, so I just started putting almost like little earrings on the zippers of the purses, because that way I get to dabble in jewelry without, you know, having to try to, you know, make a career of it or anything like that. So I order most of the beads online from like a wholesale catalog, basically. Yeah, and this is, I sit at this table when I'm doing that, and sometimes I'll set my computer up and just watch Hulu or something while I'm doing it, so that's pretty cool. My daughter's a little bit interested, and sometimes, you know, she'll come in and she'll help me do things like put stickers on tags and things like that. There was a period when I was having trouble with my wrist, so I made my son turn all the purses inside out. I like to do most of my work when everyone's gone. I do about 90% of the work on the little one. It makes, you know, prettier stitches, and it has different kinds of stitches that it can do, zigzags and things like that. And it's a lot easier to control. This one, the industrial one, does like something like 3,000 stitches per minute or something. Yeah, so it's a real workhorse, and it took me probably at least a month to get the hang of the pedal to like just barely touch it, so that it would just go, you know, slowly the way I wanted it to go. So I mainly just use that one for things that this one just can't do, like putting the handles on the purses. This one just can't sew through, you know, 8 layers of upholstery fabric. So that's what I mainly use that one for. I want to say I started in about 2007. I was just doing it, you know, for fun, and I had a friend who is a potter who actually was already selling her work, and she encouraged me to go to a particular shop owner that she knew and show her, you know, what I was making and see if she'd be interested, and she was, so that's how I got started actually, you know, selling my work. And then it just kind of grew from there. I have a website, and I have like a store, but I don't pay a lot of attention to it because it's very time consuming when you have things that are constantly changing over, like my fabrics constantly change over, and you know how hard it is to, you know, take shots of things and then edit the photo and then put it online and put a description online, and then, you know, it takes I don't have that kind of patience. so I have some things online that are fabrics that I tend to keep around, that I'll repurchase if I run out. One of the things that you all put on, where there was guest speakers talking, and one of them was somebody who was talking about how her business just took off after she started using social media, and, you know, and finally someone raised their hand and said, well, how long do you spend on the internet? And she's like, oh, about 3 hours a day. And I was just like, my first market was last year, so I guess I had joined in the year before that, and I'm really amazed by how much you guys do and how helpful you guys are, you know. I mean, really, I personally find doing shows exhausting. I'm kind of an introvert, and so it's hard for me to talk to people constantly, and especially talk about myself like I'm doing right now. But I wanted to get more into wholesale, because that way I can do more of what I like, which is sitting in here and working, rather than, you know, being in a booth for a whole weekend. And the Arts Council has been great about that. I got many wholesale accounts last year from the market, and that's enough to keep me busy, so I don't have to do as many shows.